How to build a wedding guest book from a pallet. It took about 3 hours to build this project at a cost of about $19, assuming you can get your pallet wood for free. First, I use a T-square to take the best pieces of wood off the pallet, aligning the good edge along one side of the T-square, and then arranging the rest of them tight up against the T-square. Then, with all the good edges aligned at one edge, I take the other side and mark where I need to cut. Pretty much the shortest piece that's good up to the edge will dictate how wide we can make our board. I wanted to make mine about 33 inches by 33 inches, so I needed to mix in some fencing plank to make up the difference. Fencing plank is about the same thickness as regular pallet wood thickness, so you can mix it in and it works pretty well. Once we've got these pieces marked, go ahead and cut them. We lay all of our boards out, making sure that all the cuts are about the same. Since this is going to be a rustic sign, we're not too worried about exactness, we just want to get it pretty close. This piece right here pretty much dictated the length that I could make it. This was the shortest good piece I had. That notch that's knocked out of it pretty much made it so where the 33 inches was about as wide as I could go. I've got various holes for old nails where I pulled it up off the pallet, and some of your pieces will definitely crack when you take the pallet apart. So you want to mix your pieces in so that you get the best side facing forward, and look them over, make sure that you don't have too many cracks on one side or the other, and arrange them so that the best side is facing out. Some cracks like this you may want to go back and run them through a table saw to clean up. Otherwise, I put the two worst edges on the top and the bottom of the project. So now that I've verified that 33 inches wide and tall is the height and the width of my project, I'm going to take the two good fencing planks that I have and go ahead and cut them, mark them to be cut at 33 inches. And go ahead and mark and cut one and then cut the others with that one as a guide. And get everything aligned, and now I'm going to flip all the boards over so that the backs of all the boards are facing up. This board had a lot of paint on it. I'm going to leave it on the back side so I don't have to sand all of this paint off. You'll want to mix your boards up too by color and by tone so that you don't have all of your lighter pieces at one end or all of your darker pieces at another. Mix them up so that you get nail holes and splits and different things like that that are unique to each piece of wood mixed up on the piece. And we'll lay all of our cut boards that are going to support the piece across the back. I'm going to use 4. You could probably use 3 on something like this, maybe even 2. I'm going to go ahead and use 4 of these to make sure it's good and sturdy. We'll place all of our pieces and measure them to get them the equal distance apart from one another, and then mark them. I'm using liquid nails to hold this together. Try to put the glue in so that it doesn't squirt around the front, because some of these pieces of wood don't fit together very tight, and if we want to make sure that we don't see the glue from the front, so we'll try to keep it to the middle of the boards. You'll only need one tube for a sign about this size. If you don't have a nail gun, you could go ahead and liquid nail all these pieces on here and get them about where you want them, and then just weigh them down with gallons of paint or cinder blocks or bags of cement, that sort of thing, and then leave them be. Let the liquid nails cure for a while before you move the sign. I have a brad nailer. So I think I'm going to use a brad nailer to go ahead and make sure all these pieces are in place good. Go ahead and step on each board to make sure that the glue gets good and spread out. Put a couple of nails in each board. You could probably use 1 1/8 nails or even 1-inch nails if you can get them. Mine are 1 1/4. They'll come through the other side just slightly. Probably better to get 1 1/8 so that they don't come through as much. Still may need to take a hammer to the front side and just tap over some of your nails if they pop through. If you don't have a nail gun, no problem, just let it sit for a while. With the liquid nails with weight on it, it'll be fine anyway. Now we'll flip the piece over. Since it's nailed, I don't have to worry about the glue being pulled loose. Look at the front of it, make sure that everything's okay. See if there's any glue. Now we'll take a belt sander, smooth out the tone and color on the wood. Go over it enough until you feel like the colors have gotten to the point where they're consistent enough for you. This is all subjective, of course. If you get any paint or anything like that on any of the boards, go ahead and sand it until that's gone. Now we're ready to put the design on it. So I'm going to pencil draw from the design that we have, and I'm going to do a 1-to-1 ratio so I can pretty much use my fingers to measure each piece and just measure it straight the same size on the pallet as I'm looking at on the design. So I'm just going to hand draw it with a number 2 pencil. Good thing is if I mess up on any of my drawings, I can go back and just erase it. It's just like I was using it on a piece of paper. So we'll make sure we get the drawing correct, or at least correct enough with the pencil before we do anything permanent. Make sure that the curves are good on this design and that it's reasonably close to what the design, how the design looks. If you wanted a little more help with the design, you could of course cut it out of your paper and even print 2 or 3 and then cut them out in different ways and use the different shapes as a guide for your drawing. Now we'll go back with a Sharpie. This is a heavy-duty Sharpie that's good at resisting UV radiation and lays down a pretty heavy mark. This wood's going to take a lot of the Sharpie because it's so rough. It's very porous. But a good sturdy Sharpie will definitely work on wood and will make a permanent mark. So I'm going back over my pencil drawing and correcting any little errors that I see in my pencil drawing with the Sharpie, coloring it in. Be careful not to go outside of any of your lines with the Sharpie. It'd be a lot harder to get the Sharpie off than it would be to get the pencil off. And here's the finished design. Now we'll take some masking tape and lay out the lines for the lettering to get them straight. I'm not so concerned about making sure that I draw out the letters right. I just want to make sure that I get them straight across so that I have a guide for when I lay down my pencil lines. Don't want the entire line of copy to go up or down. I'd rather it go straight across. So I'm just laying out the copy with the pencil, and if I don't like it, of course, just like with the other drawing, I can go back and just erase it and try it again, or I can erase it after the fact. After I know that I can see that a letter is not going exactly the way I want, I can fix it with my paint marker or my Sharpie and then go back and erase it later. And the finished pencil layout for the lettering. Now I'll take a silver paint marker and finish in the lettering that I started with the pencil. And we pull off the tape and finish the letters. Now we have a straight line of copy. And now I'll complete the date with the paint marker. And you can finish it with whatever stain you like. I'm using a polyurethane and it's a pecan color. You could use an oil-based stain, but it would take a lot longer for it to become fume-free. So if you want to use something that doesn't stink quite as much for as long, use something like this. Use polyurethane instead of oil-based. And I'm just using a cheap chip brush, and I'll just throw it away when I finish. And here's the completed piece with the stain.